Hi everyone, it's Lydia the lawyer here, and I just want to have a chat with you about the Service New South Wales app and the COVID-19 safety check-in tool that's run through the Service New South Wales app and what that means for your data and your privacy. So on the 18th of December 2020, the Auditor General released a report into Service New South Wales and their ability to keep your data safe. And that report was released as a result of a massive data breach that occurred earlier in the year in March 2020. So the report states that Service New South Wales, and I'm just reading from the report, is not effectively handling personal customer and business information to ensure its privacy. It continues to use business processes that pose a risk to the privacy of personal information. These include routinely emailing personal customer information to client agencies, which is one of the processes that contributed to the March 2020 data breach. Previously identified risks and recommended solutions had not been implemented on a timely basis. Now, the Service New South Wales app has seen a dramatic increase in its use as a result of both the 2019-2020 bushfires in New South Wales, but also, as you would know, as a result of COVID-19 and the pandemic. So as of the 1st of January 2020, you might realise that now when you leave the office to get a coffee, you need to check into the coffee shop before you can access your coffee hit for the day. So it's a mandatory thing. It's very hard to opt out of, if at all, and it's now very much part of everyday life in Sydney and New South Wales. You have to enter your details, including your name and your contact details. Now, these details are meant to be kept for a period of 28 days, and if it's requested, they're meant to be handed over and provided to the Chief Health Officer for contact tracing purposes. However, in the report, it raised very significant issues about privacy and about data as a result of the COVID safety checking tool. So, for example, the privacy collection statement for the COVID safety check-in tool or app addresses the operation and collection of data, and essentially what we've been sold is that it's essentially that information is only going to be used for contact tracing purposes. However, the privacy collection statement needs to be understood and read along in conjunction with the Service New South Wales privacy policy. Now, just reading from the privacy policy here, the Service New South Wales privacy policy states that your personal information may also be used in an emergency situation to help prevent a serious and imminent threat to life or health, or for law enforcement purposes, or where we are authorised or required to do so by law. So Service New South Wales, as we all know, routinely shares information and data, your information and data, with other agencies. But the issue about allowing law enforcement agencies to access that data is really significant in the context of that COVID-19 checking tool. Because this essentially means that your data can be collected not just for health and contact tracing purposes, but it can be accessed by law enforcement agencies willy-nilly, also known as without a warrant. So a lot of you might be thinking at home, well, who cares? What's the point? I'm not committing a crime when I go and get my coffee, so I don't have an issue with using that COVID safety tool to check in. And I'm not at all suggesting that you don't comply with the legislation and sign in with that QR code. That's not what this video is about. What it is about is that people need to understand how their data is being stored by Service New South Wales and the capacity for law enforcement agencies to access that information and the potential for massive data breaches and the issue of privacy harm. But it also demonstrates that creeping power that law enforcement and agencies seem to have accumulated, especially in New South Wales, about, again, how they can access data and information willy-nilly, in other words, without a warrant and without your knowledge. So what New South Wales government needs to do is to make sure the residents of New South Wales are reassured that the information that's being obtained for contact tracing purposes is exactly that. It's not going to be used for any other purpose. There also needs to be a legislative response and protections built into the current legislation that allows for that checking tool to exist. At the moment, that hasn't been done, and the New South Wales government certainly has not implemented any of the recommendations that are released in that report, that earlier report. So just something to think about when you scan your QR code on the way to grabbing a coffee.